Hi, this is David Beach from Drury University's Hammond School of Architecture. I am doing two videos for the Makers Faire this year. One is looking at virtual objects, how to model something in the computer virtually, and then turn it into something physical using 3D printing. And the other one is taking yourself and essentially making yourself virtual by using virtual reality. A Google Cardboard virtual reality headset. So this particular video, now this is very beginner's level, is going to be taking a virtual object and making it real through 3D printing. And we're going to be doing all of this with free resources available to you and free software available to you. So we're going to start by utilizing a free program called SketchUp, which is super easy to use, is a 3D modeling software. And I have this idea of wanting to do I really like rhinoceroses. So I had this idea of doing a 3D diorama with a rhinoceros that I can print out at our local library. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going to products. So this is just SketchUp.com right here. And I'm going to go to products and I'm going to go to SketchUp free. And then from here, I'm just going to click Start Modeling. And right inside of Google Chrome, which is my web browser, it is going to launch a brand new 3D environment for me to start modeling in. So I'm going to go Create New. And since I'm most familiar with working in feet and inches as an architect, I'm going to select feet and inches. And what this does is this creates for me a nice big 3D world. Now I'm using a wheel mouse, and so I can use my center button, which is the wheel. If I click and hold that, I can orbit. I can use the wheel to push forward, and I can zoom right in. Hey, how you doing? And I can zoom out, and then I can hold the shift button to pan back and forth. So as I'm navigating around the space, that's kind of what you can expect to see. Now this person being in the video right from the beginning is really convenient because that is going to let me size things approximately to the right scale. So the first thing that I want to do is import a rhinoceros into my scene. And to do that, there's a website called the 3D Warehouse. Let me just bring that right in. So it's the 3D Warehouse. And this is a tool that SketchUp has provided. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on 3D Warehouse. And it's got thousands upon thousands of things. And so for this video, I just typed in Rhino. Oh, it's empty because I didn't spell Rhino correct. So we can do a video on typing as well. And in particular, well, I've got chairs and all kinds of stuff that happen to show up. I know that the Rhino that I really wanted was a black Rhino. So let's just see if that doesn't happen to pop up. Well, let's go back just a step here. And back one more step, because the Rhino that I wanted to use was right here. I'm not sure why that wasn't popping up in my latest search, but that's the Rhino that I really want to use. So it's right here in the 3D Warehouse, and I'm just going to select it. And I'm going to click download, and I want sort of an older version just because I'm kind of old school. I like the 2017 versions of things. So I'm going to download that. And let's go ahead and minimize my 3D Warehouse. And so I'm back into SketchUp, and I'm just going to click on these three little lines right here. And I'm going to go to Insert because I want to insert that rhinoceros into my scene. So insert, I'm going to insert from my computer because I just downloaded that file into my computer. I'm in my downloads folder on my computer, and I can see right there Rhino black.skp. And that .skp means it's a SketchUp file. That's the file extension that you're going to see for everything SketchUp. So I'm just going to click open, and I'm going to say insert as a component. And I'm going to left click. And there's my rhinoceros. So right now it's like the size of a toy rhinoceros, unfortunately. But we know that a rhinoceros is just a little bit taller than a person. And there's a person. So what I can do is right here on my left-hand panel. These are things that I can do in SketchUp. And I've got move, rotate, and right here is scale. So I'm going to select scale, and I'm just going to grab one of these boxes, and I'm just going to start pulling that up. Let's pull it up this way a little bit. Look out, lady. Rhino's coming after you. And now I've got a rhino that I know is just about the right size. Maybe we'll make it just a little bit bigger. Something like that. So now I've got this full rhino in my space. Let's move this nice person out of the way just a little bit. We don't want her to get run over. So I'm going to switch to my move tool. Let's pull this, move her just a little bit out of the way. And yeah, I've got something that looks like a rhinoceros. It's just about at the right size. And because I'm happy with that, let's just go ahead and remove the nice person so she's no longer in any danger. Okay, so I've got a rhinoceros. And now I want to build something around the rhinoceros so that it's kind of a full and cool diorama. Maybe even that says rhinoceros in front of it, or rhino in front of it. So to do that, we're going to do just a little bit of modeling. So to do a 3D model in SketchUp, we start simply by drawing lines. So I'm going to select my line tool, and I'm just going to draw a box around the rhino, just slightly bigger than the rhino itself. And if you notice, I'm following these colors. So all 3D modelers work on the Cartesian coordinate axis system. So I've got the z-axis, x, and y. And I know I can make a perfect square if I maintain my lines on those axes. So, you know, I was going green just there, and I'm going to go back to red. And now I'm going to go back to green again to make a box. So that was 4 sides. So it's not technically a box. This is a plane because it is simply a 2-dimensional surface that I made connecting 4 lines together. I do want to turn this into a box, though, so that the rhino has something solid to stand on. And to do that, I'm going to use this tool called push-pull. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to select, and when I say select, in particular, I'm clicking on it with my left button on my mouse. I'm going to left-click once, and I'm just going to push that down. That's why it's called push-pull. And I'm going to left-click again. And if you look down here at the bottom right, you're going to see how thick that is. I'm going to make it right about 1 foot thick. Now, don't worry, it's not actually going to print out 1 foot thick. When I send this to the 3D printer, we will scale everything down a whole bunch. Okay? So, next, I want to build a couple of walls for this. So I'm going to click my pencil again. And this time, I'm just going to come over just a little bit right here. And I'm going to do one line like this. And then I'm going to do a second line right across the back. Again, I'm staying on those axes. Remember, I was doing this one on the red, this one on the green. And now what I can do is I'm going to use push-pull again, except notice I've got this surface divided up into 3 pieces. Now I can grab this wall, pull that one up, and I'm going to grab this wall, or this floor piece, and turn it into a wall as well. And as I'm bringing that up, before I left-click, I'm going to hover right over this edge to make sure those 2 walls are the exact same size. So now I've kind of got this cool backdrop for my rhino that maybe I could even draw on those or put a picture and glue that into those, something like that. I need to take my rhino. I want him to move back just a little bit more, so I'm going to use my move tool. I've got it selected with the left click, and I'm going to move it back. And let's rotate it in there a little bit as well. So right here with my move tool is also rotate. Now the rotate's a little bit trickier because it needs to know what axis I'm going to rotate and where do I want to rotate my object. So if you see this compass, it rotates around, and that tells me which axis my rhino is going to rotate about. So I'm going to select somewhere right around in here. So I'm just left clicking once, and then I'm going to left click one more time to start my rotation, and then I'm going to left click a 3rd time to stop my rotation. Cool, so now I have that. Yeah, it's looking even more exciting. I think I want to pull these walls up just a little bit more. They seem too low. Let's go up just a little bit more with that one. A little bit more with this one. Perfect. Okay, Last bit that I want to add to my 3D model is a little bit of text. So the text tool, where is the text tool? It's in here someplace. I know that there's a text tool. It might be with my pencil. Nope. Nope. There it is. It's right here with sort of my compound drawing tool. So this, I can use this to make a square or a circle. And one of the other tools right here is 3D text. So I'm going to activate my 3D text, and I'm going to type in all caps, Rhino, except I don't want it in that font. I want to use sans. I don't know why. I like it. I like how it looks better. Sans. It is filled. It is 1 foot tall with a 6-inch extrusion. So I'm going to place that right here on front. So it's going to print that text right off of the base. Kind of want it to be bigger. So I'm actually going to go ahead and scale that up some too, just like that. That looks really cool. Okay, so let's move that text over because I really like things to be a little bit more centered. There we go. So now I've got this cool thing ready to send to my 3D printer. So the first thing I should probably do is save this. So I'm going to click the Save button inside of SketchUp. I'm going to save this to my SketchUp folder. Now this is saving it not onto my computer, but it's saving it into my SketchUp drive. So I have logged in using my password to SketchUp, which is, again, totally free to use. And saving files online for SketchUp is also free to use. So I'm just going to name this Rhino 3D Print. So that's now named Rhino 3D Print. And now what I need to do is I need to export this as an STL file. And an STL file is what you are going to need to do 3D printing. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of sending this to the 3D printer. Now, when you take this to the library to print out, their process is going to be a little bit different because they use a different 3D printer than we use here at Drury University. But the core concepts are going to be the exact same. So it's worth our time to go ahead and look at what it's like sending one of these through to a 3D printer. So I'm going to go in SketchUp. I'm going to do my drop-down list, and I'm going to export this as an STL file. So STL files, or stereolithography files, are what 3D printers like to use. So if you want to get your object 3D printed at the library, you will need to bring with you on a USB drive or a flash drive or something along those lines this STL file. So I'm just going to click on that, and it's going to download it. It's going to save it and download it right here to my computer. So if I go Show in Folder, you can see there's the skip file that we downloaded from the 3D warehouse. And this is my STL file. So I'm going to open up what the 3D printers that we use here at the Hammond School of Architecture, which are Prusa's. And this essentially is a virtual version of the 3D printer. In particular, this is the 3D printer bed. So that's what the print is going to start on. And I'm just using my left mouse to orbit around my object. And what I need to do is I need to import my file onto and position it onto the bed here. So I'm going to go File, Import, and then import STL. If you notice that STL, very first thing listed. So I'm going to select STL. And right there, it's already gone to my downloads folder, Rhino 3D Print. Open. So it's going to take just a second, and then that's going to show up on my 3D print bed. Now, if you notice, that's a little bit big right there. So I want to go ahead and scale it down some. Let's drop it down to about 50%. Yeah, that's better. So that is going to be a couple of inches. That's like about 3 inches wide by about 4 inches long. So that's a pretty good size model that I can set on my desk and look at. I can select the file and move it around in the bed. But again, I just kind of want it roughly right about in the center. Now, what a 3D printer does, there's really not a lot of magic to it. A 3D printer actually is 2D printing over and over and over until it builds up a certain amount of thickness for you. So to make that happen, most 3D printers have a piece of software like this that does what's called slicing, which divides your model up into layers. And those layers are essentially what gets traced out by the 3D printer over and over and over as sort of a two-dimensional thing until it begins to become a three-dimensional thing. So what we need to do is we need to slice this into pieces. So to do that, I'm going to select the kind of slice that I want to build. So on our Prusas, we're going to be using a 0.2 millimeter slice. And I've got this set for a pretty high quality setting. There are a lot of different plastics that we can use in the 3D printing process. Here at the Hammond School of Architecture, we use a plastic called PLA, which is the same thing that you're going to find at the local library. And this is my printer type. It is an MK3S Prusa, which are awesome printers. The library has a really good couple of printers as well. We just happen to like the Prusas a whole bunch. Next, I'm going to choose nothing on the supports so I can show you, at least virtually speaking, what's going to go wrong. The infill is how much plastic is going to be on the inside of the object. And for most of our models here, we found that 15% is a really good number. And that means 15% of this volume is going to be filled with plastic. I don't need it set to be 100. I don't need this to be solid. That would just be a lot of plastic. So I'm going to hit slice now, and it's just going to take just a couple of seconds. And it's going to give me a preview. So it's switched from this solid view right here to my slice view so that I can look at every single layer that's going to print. So the very first thing that happens is this base is going to be put down by the 3D printer. So that is slice number 1. If I go to slice number 2, it's really just a copy of that. So essentially, I've got a print head that's leaving plastic behind, and it's just tracing out this form over and over again. So layer 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it doesn't really start to get interesting until we get up a little bit higher. Let's put the bottom of my model right here. So I'm up to layer 40. Let's move it back down to 26, 27, 28, 30. So it's starting to do the letters for me now. And if you notice, it's not printing all the feet at the same time. So let's kind of navigate around here and notice. So here we can see the layers on the 3D printing, and you can see that that first foot and this back foot, they're up in the air. And so here's the thing. Gravity works. So if I'm a 3D print head leaving melted plastic right here, I know that I've got a big problem. This is floating, right? So that melted plastic is basically just going to turn into a pile of spaghetti right here because there's nothing to hold it in place. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem. And I can fix it in a couple of different ways. Oh, you know what? As I go up, that's the belly of my rhinoceros. And there's nothing supporting that either. Another problem. And as I go up further, that's the chin of my rhinoceros. Nothing holding that in place either. So, you know, I've got some problems. I got some issues to work through because this, again, gravity works. As my print head moves around to trace these forms, that plastic is just going to drop to right here and make a big, terrible mess. So really, it's going to be less about fixing these feet that are up in the air, and this is going to be more about adding in supports. And I'm going to add in those supports so that as the printer comes along and as it gets to this point, it has something to put that plastic onto as it's tracing out these shapes. So let's go ahead and let's add in our supports. And I'm just going to say we need supports everywhere for this. So that is going to need to be rerun, resliced. Oh, cool. So now you can see it's got this little grid of plastic that's moving through here. So let's go all the way back down to my base layer. And so there's my ground plane right there. And there you can see it's starting to print both feet, the front foot and the back foot. But then it's also doing this big green blob of plastic. That's the start of my support material. And you can see it's doing this really thin wall. And it's doing that so that I can break all of those support pieces off once my 3D print is complete. Which isn't any easy thing to do, truth. You're going to have to take some needle nose pliers or something like that and break those things out. And then maybe even do just a little bit of sanding here and there. But that's going to be able to support the front end of that rhinoceros as the print head continues to move up and up and up, eventually completing off the rhinoceros, and then finally completing off the wall. Cool, so once I have this, and now this process you're going to want to do at the library. They will help you out. You're going to see something really similar. The program will be slightly different, but you're going to have the exact same kind of issues to work through. So you're going to bring in that STL file that you've made. You're going to run it through the slicing software that they have. Then you're going to export a G-code. And the G-code is essentially your toolpath. And the toolpath is going to tell the printer exactly what to do. So I'm just going to save this as my Rhino 3D print. And now that G-code is ready to install. It's ready to save right over to the 3D printer and start printing this file. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We're going to do one more that takes something really similar to this, but puts you virtually right into the model. Oh, one more thing, because I do need to give you the information on how to get to the library, right? So the Springfield Greene County Library has at the downtown branch the Edge Community Technology Center. So if you want to go and 3D print something, that is the number you need to call, 417-837-5011. They will schedule a time for you to come in and use their 3D printer. It costs 15 cents per gram to do printing, which really is pretty inexpensive. Let's go back to Prusa here. This would be 75 grams. So if we did 75 grams, 75 times 0.15, it'd be $11.25 to print off this model that I was showing you here. And they will be happy to help you out with that, happy to go through the process with you and make these really, really cool things. Hope you enjoyed.